Hello and welcome everyone again into another video. Today's video we will talk about the top teams in the Open Great League, and I apologize for not posting videos the past 2 days. So I have a flu and you can tell from my voice it's much easier now. Hopefully we can survive to record this video. And Great League, you know, like it's the most important league in the entire game. It's the most I wouldn't say the most loved one. It's like the league that people just don't mind having. It's just because that there are so many good options and people always have their own team to use. But that doesn't mean they can't take a look at other teams, which we will be talking about in today's video as I keep updating this video. It's like if you watch the previous one, it's going to be different than this one because I keep I stay on up to date with the teams and what people are using. Before we head into the top teams, let's talk about the top Pokemon. Some Pokemon are just too good for the Great League, and some Pokemon, you know, like sometimes being slightly used more, sometimes being slightly used less. But we can all agree that Clodsire is still the best Pokemon. It's #1 Pokemon on PvP, and please don't run Stone Edge. You have to run Sludge and Earthquake. If you run Stone Edge, you will be weak to stuff like Feraligatr, because if you have a Sludge, you can flip the matchups like Clodsire, sorry, not Clodsire. I meant to say Dunsparce, and Feraligatr isn't as annoying because you can survive one of these moves. And I think you win the 0 and also you win the 1 against the Shadow Feraligatr. So if you want your Clodsire to be the best Pokemon, you have to run Sludge. Galarian Corsola is a new Pokemon that was recently released, and I used it in Toronto, and it was, I wouldn't say it was broken and OP, like similar to the people on Twitter complaining about like, oh, Galarian Corsola is so OP. No, it's not. It loses to something like Serperior. And Serperior is not totally an OP Pokemon. It's just a Pokemon with a Frenzy Plant, right? It's just like a slightly better version of Azu in the neutral matchups. In the neutral matchups, it's supposed to win these matchups. Like Azu is known for being the best in neutral Pokemon, and neutral Pokemons are always good because you don't want the game to be relying on RPS Pokemons like Hard Counter. Like Azu does provide a good in neutral matchups that even in bad matchups, Azu will still be able to chip the opposing Pokemon, which is something good. Lickitung used to do that back in the days, but then Lickitung got nerfed and then Azu gets light buff, and with the drop to Licky, Azu has to take that spot. And I do believe that in the future, Corsola might take Azu's spot, but the thing is they are different. As an example, Azu destroyed the dark, Corsola is weak to the dark. Azu beat Feraligatr in the 0 and the 1. Corsola does beat Feraligatr also in the 0 and the 1. That's because Astonish and Nightshade is just such a good combination of fast move and charge move coverage. But some Pokemons have gotten a decent buff, such as Sandslash. Sandslash might not exist in the PvP ranking, but it's a very strong Pokemon. PvPoke say that Mandibuzz is #3, and that's understandable because Mandibuzz has a good play into pretty much everything as long as it's not a fairy. And then followed by Primeape. I use Primeape myself. I don't think it's as that good. It's just a Pokemon that can benefit from energy lead. Like if you have 3 Karate Chop lead, you will pretty much win against stuff like Azu. The problem is if you play against good players, they won't let you get that advantage, so it's going to end up being a useless Pokemon. Diggersby is a beast. I used Diggersby in Toronto, and this Pokemon never let me down. With the buff to Fire Punch, now matchups like Serperior isn't a bad matchup, because technically 2 Fire Punches with the quick attack almost KO the Serperior, and the 1 shield it does, but hey, you need to get to 3 moves before they get to 3 moves. Like, you need to keep that, to be aware of that. And Diggersby is just the ultimate counter to Clodsire, as 2 Scorching Sand will take them out, and they need 3 Earthquakes. So you can even be energy behind and you should still win. Feraligatr is still the best Pokemon. This Pokemon is such a beast, and if you have a Shadow one, it's even better. Gastrodon is the new Bastiodon. So Gastrodon is the new Bastiodon. It's the Pokemon that wins all the neutral matchups. Dunsparce is probably the safest Pokemon. It's hard to say that because people just don't use Fightheads, and Fightheads are bad. But I myself hate this Pokemon. I don't think this Pokemon is that good, for one simple reason, that all of its damage comes from non-stab damage, and usually non-stab damage, when you use it, you'll just lack the damage. And that's why like something like Azu and Dunsparce are much better than Azu and Gastro are much better than Dunsparce, because they have a stab damage. Shadow Kanto Marowak. Shadow Kanto Marowak was the best Pokemon in Play Pokemon, the regionals meta, and then started falling off a bit because Diggersby now is just the better ground type, and for that reason, now Diggersby is the better choice for the ground Pokemon. Pangoro, Pangoro and Primeape play the same role, except that Primeape has a better matchup into Azu, and I think that's it, but I think Pangoro does play a better role because of Night Slash. I mean, Night Slash is... Wait, Night Slash is dark, right? Just for like Night Slash being a dark move, so sometimes it might be better. But I think Primeape is just a better Pangoro. Jumpluff, Shadow. PvPoke say Shadow. I think the non-Shadow is just better because whatever you want the Jumpluff to do, the Shadow will be doing that with shield investment, while the non-shadow does not care about using shields. And some Pokemons here I would like to mention as well. Malamar is still a beast. Drapion is not mentioned, and I think it's the best Pokemon in my point of view. Drapion with in the one shield, it's just such a beast. In the two shield, it's amazing. The only matchup that Drapion care about is the Feraligatr. On 1v1, you have to bait. If you don't bait, you just lose that matchup. Anything here also worth mentioning, Dugong has always been like, you know, a Pokemon that's not good enough to be meta, but it's always scary to play against. So, anything here worth mentioning? Talonflame, I think Talonflame has a great play into the current meta. Tropius is not good because of the nerf to Razor Leaf. Now you're forced to use Edge Slash, which is just a bad move. I hope they just give it another fast move. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it. So let's talk about the top performing Pokemons. Like, as you can see, there's the PvPoke ranking, and then there's the top performers. Those top performers, like whatever you will see people using the most. Because, yeah, PvPoke says, like, these are the best Pokemon, but technically, eventually, people are not going to use the 500 Pokemons on PvPoke in the Great League meta. People are going to use, like, up to 20 Pokemon if we're talking about the Great League, and probably up to 7-8 Pokemon if we're talking about Master League. So we would call them the top performers. Those Pokemons perform the best in the condensed meta. And the top performing Pokemon according to PvPoke is actually Diggersby, and that's because Diggersby got a buff to Fire Punch, and Diggersby now is a very scary Pokemon. Think of Diggersby this way: if it's a neutral matchup, Diggersby is going to win. If it's a soft loss, Diggersby can win with a Scorching Sand debuff. Yeah, just think of it that way. Followed by, I think, Toxapex and Annihilape. Annihilape is good because it can win so many matchups in the 2 shield, and that's pretty much the only thing that's good about Annihilape. A-Slash, we talked about this Pokemon. The buff to Ice Punch made the non-shadow actually better, because the thing about the non-shadow is that in the non-shadow does not need to shield against Clodsire. You do survive the Earthquake and you can destroy that Clodsire, while like with the shadow you have to shield the EQ, and sometimes they can just walk with a shield advantage. Corsola is a Pokemon that I will be using a lot, okay? And when the leagues go live, I will be trying to use 3 or 4 different Corsola teams, because I do believe that now more people have Corsola. If you haven't, just keep hatching and trading with your friends. I got myself one. It's not the best IV, but it's good enough. If you don't have a Corsola, just keep using a Drapion teams, to be honest. Drapion is just too good of a Pokemon. Now, so we talked about the top performing Pokemons. Let's talk about the top performing teams. Teams that are made based on these top performing Pokemons. And the top performing team according to PvPoke is actually Malamar, Diggersby, and Toxapex. I don't know about Toxapex, but Malamar with Diggersby makes a scary core that only gets broken by something like Superior or Jumpluff. Those two destroy this core. Other than that, I mean, what else? Azu? Yeah, Azu's actually scary. But other than those 3, there is nothing that can break this core. And the best way I saw to play the Azu lead is you stay in as Malamar. Once Azu gets to the playoff, you just swap to Diggersby and catch the playoff here. And then Malamar will have so much energy that it will destroy whatever the opponent has in the back. Because Malamar does have enough energy to just have good coverage against everything except the fairies. Against the fairies, you just don't have anything to throw. So the energy you'll save from here is going to be used elsewhere. Another thing about Malamar does beat Talonflame in the 0 and the 1, which makes it one of the best Pokemons in the neutral matchups. It also beats Sandslash in the 0 and the 1, but you lose the 2 because they have to triple superpower, and the third superpower does not KO. Now moving into another solid team, and this is probably going to be my favorite here. It's kind of ABA weak to grass, but hey, grass doesn't exist, and if the grass is in the lead, it's always Jumpluff, and if it's Jumpluff in the lead, Morpeko destroys it because, you know, Morpeko loves these in neutral matchups. Yes, they have Fairy One, which is super effective, but remember that Fairy One doesn't do that much damage. Also, it's non-stab, and once Morpeko ramps up his damage, he's just going to sweep. If they have a grass in the back, it's very manageable, and you have A-Slash for that. If they swap in Drapion, usually I recommend, you know, like bait the first and then swap to A-Slash. Because A-Slash with Powdered Snow isn't bad into Drapion, especially like in the 2 life, because when you can no-shield the move, they cannot no-shield any move in the 2 shield. Because if you can no-shield and the Poison Sting does not add up because it's technically walled by the Steel typing, and then because you have Powdered Snow, you're going to end up farming them all the way down if you play the 2 shield, if you're planning to the 2 shield. Another solid team, if you are a Jumpluff fan, because so far, I've been saying that these teams are core broken by Jumpluff. If you want to run Jumpluff, I do believe that Jumpluff makes a great core with Dunsparce or a Clodsire. Those two should always be paired with Jumpluff. And the third is up to you, but I think I checked PvPoke, and PvPoke says Annihilate would make the best third, as it's going to be like this. This team would love to see a Gator, and if you see a Gator in the lead, Jumpluff destroy it. If you see it in the back, Dunsparce destroy it. And if you see it on Annihilate, Annihilate does win the 2 shield because of the boosted counter damage from Rage Fist. So the team is kind of soft to Azu, but it should be manageable because this beats Azu, this beats Azu. This one can punch through Azu with energy lead. And for the Talonflame fans, I know that Talonflame is extremely good as a core breaker because it doesn't matter what core opponent is running, they will always be core broken by Talonflame. And Talonflame used to be paired with Gastrodon and Toxapex, but the thing is, Gastro sometimes... Okay, here's the thing. Gastro is a bad safe swap because it gets walled easily. So if you're gonna run Gastrodon, it must be in the lead. In case you get hard countered, you swap out, and then you have a chance to flip the alignment. But if you have Gastro in the back, it has to be the closer. It can't be a safe swap. It can be a counter swap. So if you lose lead and you have Gastro in the back, it's going to be a tough matchup. That's like the main thing. Now for the Corsola fans, I looked up PvPoke for like a bunch of Corsola teams, and PvPoke is saying that the best thing to pair with Corsola is Prime Ape, because PvPoke assumed that Wigglytuff doesn't exist. And as a third, you can run Superior or Jumpluff. To be honest, if I would have to change, I would just put a poison here instead of those two, because you should have a hard counter to the poisons. And I wouldn't lead this. I probably would just do this because I don't want to be weak to Wiggly, right? I mean, this is still weak to Wiggly. So how to fix this team? Probably just run Clodsire in the back, and then you should have enough dark answers. Now, speaking of Wiggly, okay? If you don't have skills, if you just want a team that you can tap your way through the win, gets like some 2-3s, 3-2 sets, and finish those 500 wins battle pass, I do believe that this team is extremely strong. Yes, it's no skills team, but it's literally, I just said, you don't need skills. You just tap your screen with Wiggly, Gastro, and Mandibles. The team kinda struggle into Poison lead, but if you think Poison is very common in the lead, you have to run Snarl Mandy, because Air/Mandy is just bad. But Yasser, you've been saying these stuff about like all these teams, but what team will you be running? The team I will be running is actually Azu with Corsola and Sandslash. Why? Why Sandslash? It's a Pokemon that get a buff. Why Corsola? Because I have one. Now I can use it. Why Azu? Yes, you guys know me. There is always Azu in my teams. Because last season I used this team, which is I stole from Wholesome and I hit Legend with. But this season I'm just going to switch the Drapion into the Corsola. Look, they look totally different, right guys? Another version of this team, actually, if you don't want to run A-Slash, if you want to run more counters to Feraligatr, because Feraligatr is just annoying for this team. As you can see, we don't have a Feraligatr answer. And what I recommend is just to swap to something to Bibarel, because Bibarel does answer Feraligatr, technically you completely wall it and you do neutral damage. So Bibarel does something better than Dunsparce, which is walling Feraligatr, because remember that Bibarel is subtyping water, and Bibarel does beat Azu comfortably, more comfortably than Dunsparce and Feraligatr, so it should fix these problems. Another Corsola team, you compare it with Mandibuzz, and then as a third you could have Bibarel or Clodsire. The problem with this, if you run Bibarel, you're kind of weak to what? I don't know what are you weak to? Azu, probably. No, Serperior. Yeah, so you're ABA weak to Serperior. So if you see Serperior in the lead, you have to play the 2 shield as Corsola. Another tap, no skill team. Literally, like, you don't need any skills. Corsola with Wiggly and Diggersby. Just 3 bulky Pokemons and tap your way until you win the game. So we talked about the top performing teams. Let's talk about some teams from top players. And these teams are usually teams I do change. Like, teams that were provided to me, and then I do make slightly changes depending on the meta. And the Brandoni team, it's literally just the 3 meta Pokemons. This team does not probably have the best coverage, but you have 3 meta Pokemons and they do well against everything. So everything here is just have a neutral play. It's like running Lickitung back in the days in the lead, and you just play the lead. If you win, you stay in. If you lose, you stay in still, because you're just playing out a neutral matchup throughout the fight. The team from Softove, I think she was running Feraligatr with Diggersby and Clodsire. It's a very decent team. It's actually like the team is just crazy good. Like, it only struggled into grass in the lead. Other than that, everything is just manageable. Basically, you 2 shield Feraligatr against everything, and you have 2 Pokemons here to soak up the damage. The team itself is kinda weak, I think, to Pangoro, and the other Pokemon is Feraligatr, if it's in the back. But Diggersby, I found out that Diggersby does beat Feraligatr in every shield scenario, in the 0 and the 1 and the 2. Because you resist Shadow Claw, and 1 move is enough to take them out with the quick attack damage. Clodsire is just Clodsire, it's just the best Pokemon. The team that Mr. Elam, Toronto Regional Champion, have used to hit number 1 on the leaderboard was actually Dugong, Charjabug, and Azu. What does Charjabug do? Hard countering Feraligatr. That's literally what it does. It hard countered Feraligatr. Everyone was safe swapping Feraligatr. He was just countered those swaps with a Charjabug. The Wholesome team, do you guys remember the A/ double Mud Slappers? I think now you can just replace one of those Mud Slappers with a Diggersby, and you should have an updated version of that. And I think that's pretty much it for today. So thank you so much everyone for watching. I appreciate you guys listening until now. If you watched this video until now, make sure to like the video if you like the content, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, night, or whatever you're having. If you have any question about any of these teams, just do the time slot, you know, like in YouTube. If you comment the time, like let's say now we're at 17:56, you just type 17:56 and it will give you a link to that. So just type the time slot for that team and ask your question. I will be glad to answer all of your questions. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.